Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is Marc Hyde.
And Chris Fuller.
Wow, that was not monotone. Today, guys, we are finally, oh my goodness, getting to the dinosaur episode. We promised this 4 or 5 weeks ago, something like that.
Something like that, 3-4 weeks ago.
I don't know, but we had a two-parter and then an interview that also became a two-parter. So we are finally here to talk about the dinosaurs. So Fuller, you ready?
Let's go.
We made it.
We're talking about the dinosaurs.
Dude, we're at a different, I like this angle.
We're talking about
I feel like I'm at a job interview right now, though, but I can see myself and the camera all in one.
I did that just for you
because I had an issue with
because
looking at the wrong thing.
You have to always look at yourself, and so yeah,
my hair's looking good. Did you know for the I know I made a joke about this before, but I don't know if I made a joke on the episode. I think I have about the fact that I went to a real barbershop for the first time ever.
Yeah, you talked about that. I think a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, I apparently have a problem.
You do have a problem.
I guess because I get stuck on things. Just talk about it.
But
can we talk about what you're wearing right now? What is this?
I just did this like 5 minutes ago.
We're trying to upgrade our merch collections.
Although I think I'd rather go with the 4-inch. This is a 3-inch. That's your 4-inch.
No, that's 3-inch.
That's not.
That's also 3-inch. Yeah.
This is 3-inch.
Yeah.
No, bro. Nah,
they're the same. I just got.
So.
I got a smaller chest, bro.
I think that's 3.5.
No.
Look at the camera.
But I'm a little person, and I got less spread. Either way, welcome back to the show, my dude. What'd you think about that interview we had the last 2 weeks?
Man, that was so awesome. It was a good conversation with Morgan. I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
And that was supposed to drop earlier, but then poor Morgan got sick.
Yeah,
and so we had to re-record that one a lither bit later.
Yep, and it sounded like it was his birthday.
I know, I totally missed that until we had to wait. Did you say it was your birthday, boss?
You're going, and then afterwards we're like, hey, you should go have steak and potatoes.
But we never actually said the words happy birthday. So
happy birthday, Morgan.
4 months late. Happy birthday, Morgan.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, goodness. Well, dude, it's been a heck of a lot of fun inside of this Facebook group, man. Dude, so far I'm looking at it. I feel like more over the last month. I mean, we're beginning of February now. Yep, I would say February what?
February 10th. The 10th. Now.
And it seems like more and more people are actually posting inside of the Facebook group.
Goodness.
Which is absolutely awesome. But, we did the giveaway. We had our stuff. Maybe we'll have another giveaway here soon. Ooh. But something I always love to do inside this Facebook group is say, what should we banter about?
What should we talk about?
But before we get to that, we made the joke. Actually, my brother-in-law, Joe, texted me and goes, dude, you guys just need to add calling a spade to the bingo board. And someone was like, wait,
is the spade.
We have a bingo board for RTC, and our girl Sabrina made a bingo board like months ago.
Yeah, we need to repost that. Well, no, we need to repost it so people that haven't seen the bingo board.
And maybe move the board around a little bit because you can't have the same bingo board every single time, even though we say things differently. I will say I've had meatloaf the last 3 days in a row, which has been fantastic.
Meatloaf.
That was my present from Beth for saying thank you for doing what she had to do to make sure we only have 8 kids. So I had meatloaf for dinner, I had meatloaf for lunch the next day, and meatloaf for lunch for today.
There's some people that have drug addictions. You have a meatloaf addiction.
I don't see the problem with that, though. What's the problem with meatloaf? Bro, why did you touch my pooch? I don't got.
You said I don't see the problem. I was just pointing it out.
I got a dad bod now, man.
Welcome to the club, my
dude.
friend.
Okay, I used to be real fit, dude. I was looking at pictures when I bought my Orkney house. Like, when did I buy my Orkney house? Like 2014, so like 9 years ago. And I'm like, man, I had a cut. I was looking good. And then Beth was like, let me cook for you.
She goes, here's some meatloaf.
No. She was like, she went Mulan at me. She goes, I'll make a man out of you, and I'm going to cook you some food. And all of a sudden, I have to watch my portions now.
And now you're starting to look like me, Jimpo.
See, and that's what you were saying. You said Janelle. Janelle caused you to have the dad bod.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Not the kids.
I was fit when I met Janelle. I was riding my bike all the time. I was super fit when I met Janelle. And then I went from like this point to be hungry.
It was that cracked chicken, wasn't it?
It was cracked chicken. It was everything. She cooks so much good food all the time. Even her health food is so good. It's like, dang, man, how do you make something terrible so I can complain
like a
about
hot dog? Make a hot
no,
dog.
She makes a good. No, because see, her hot dog, she's like, I'm making a hot dog, but then she makes chili with it, and then she does like nacho cheese sauce, and so you get a cheese and chili dog. And it's like,
I've never had a chili cheese dog.
And then she's like, oh, well, I just made some homemade sourdough buns. And so you could just have that. She made
Dude.
blueberry sourdough bread the other day, and it was like, oh my goodness.
That sourdough bread that she sent me home with a few weeks ago.
I'm telling you,
we
bro.
pounded that.
I'm telling you, bro.
So fast.
She made like 4 loaves this week, and I'm like, it's so good.
Janelle, what? I didn't get no notification in the group chat between you, me, and Fuller and Beth. I didn't get no notification that your sourdough bread's ready.
That's because it was gone, bro. there wasn't no sourdough left.
It was just so gone too fast.
It was just gone.
Well, speaking of food, when I said, what should we banter about tonight? There's some really funny ones in here. There's some fun questions. But the one that got me rolling the most was, how do you say certain foods?
Like, what do you mean? How do you say
like tomato, tomata, pecan, pecan. Well, those were the only 2, I guess.
Okay.
Caramel, caramel, crayon.
Okay, wait. Time out.
All these things. Okay, so.
There is a difference between caramel and caramel.
What are you talking about?
There's a difference.
What?
There's a difference. Caramel,
right?
In Indiana. Carmel.
So if
caramel,
you're gonna okay, so
caramel is a candy.
All right, so go to Starbucks and order a.
It depends on how it's spelled. If it's spelled like the candy caramel, it's caramel. Or if it's spelled like the city in Indiana, caramel.
Okay, so if you're gonna go get a blank macchiato, you know what I'm talking about. How would you order that? Try the one.
Well, because
hello, welcome to Starbucks. How can I take your order?
Okay.
How would you order that drink?
I need a caramel macchiato.
No, it's a caramel macchiato.
But it's not spelled caramel. It's spelled caramel.
Okay.
That's the way it's spelled.
But the A is silent because English is weird.
The A isn't silent.
All right, so here's one that's spelled the same way, okay? And this one, okay, so going back to this.
Pecan and pecan.
Do you say tomato or tomato?
Tomato.
Tomato, that's like, man, we ain't that proper. Come on now. We Midwest.
Tomato. Oh, we're coming over to get
now
some
this is where we disagree. Okay, so what's the normal drink we normally drink for the show?
Coffee.
How do you say it?
Coffee.
I say coffee.
Okay, so
I don't say coffee like coffee.
I say coffee.
I say coffee with an A.
Yeah, it's coffee, not
coffee. I'm from Chicago.
Coffee sounds like you're from New Jersey, like coffee. Hey, I'll take a double coffee, like from Brooklyn. Coffee.
Let's say coffee.
No, it's
I say with an A. Let's say coffee.
I say coffee.
All right. So if you say pecan or pecan, how would you say it? Like a blank pie?
A pecan pie.
You say pecan? You don't say a pecan pie?
I say pecan.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Dude, my co-host is broken, ladies and gentlemen.
Am I? Or is it you who is broken? Well, you're broken right now.
Right now I'm broken.
Right
now I'm broken.
Yeah.
All right, here's one. Amy kept going with the trend. Ready?
All right.
How do you say that? Oh, suck. The thing that you do when you go to the grocery store and you give them this thing to get discounts.
Coupon?
You say coupon, like with the letter Q, like the queen, or do you say coupon?
I say coupon.
What's your coupon code?
Because it's
I say coupon.
It's a chicken
coop. Chicken coop.
Coupon.
Coupon. Porcupine?
Porcupine.
What's another word that people say weird?
Potpourri.
Crayon. Do you say crayon or crayon? Like, hey, I want the red crayon.
Crayon.
See, okay, you're at least normal in that regards. You're at least normal in that regard. Let's see what else the Facebook
I'm pretty sure
says.
look, I could say 6th, okay? I'm pretty sure I'm the normal one and you're the broke one.
That's awful. Ooh, Marlene. Okay, our friend Marlene from New Zealand says beans or spaghetti on toast. Well, first off.
Wait.
Yes.
What?
Girls, is that a New Zealand thing?
Is toast different in New Zealand than it is here in the States?
Because you always have Texas toast with your spaghetti, and then you can make like a spaghetti sandwich, with your Texas toast and eat it. You could do that, or you can use it to slurp up all the soak up all them juices.
But you got to make sure it's got the garlic on it. It's got to have the garlic. All right? You got to get some garlic on it.
Dude, back in my poor days, we used to take hot dog buns or hamburger buns and make garlic bread out of that.
Duh,
dude, it was freaking awesome.
Garlic bread.
But I've never heard of putting beans or spaghetti on toast. Marlene, can you further tell us what that's about?
I guess if you make like a black bean like patty and do like a black bean burger, I guess I could see that.
But is that a New Zealand thing?
Am I going to just take a can of beans and warm them up and put them on bread? Probably not. Probably not. Sorry. All right, last question.
I don't know how to answer this. So
okay, last one.
I don't know because
right, let's hear it.
Because I value God's creatures. What's the best? Not true. I love eating deer meat. So if you shoot me one, I will eat it after you cook it or dry it.
Get to the question.
What's the best caliber gun for deer hunting?
Ooh.
This guy says, I like my 30.06.
30-06, bro.
Oh, what?
It's called a 30-06.
30. Spell it.
30-aught. It's a 30-06 is what it's called.
Yacht? Ot?
Ot.
Like
30
like O-T.
Ot. 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 30-06.
I just say Sam's Club. I just say I'm going to Sam's Club.
Yeah, I'd probably
Go
agree.
Kroger.
I'd probably agree with the 30-06. Unless you're into bow hunting.
What is that? What is a 30? What?
It's a big rifle. It goes boom.
Okay, because I mean, our boy Ryan Laux, who wants it, he says he hunts with a pump action 30 whatever 6.
30-06.
And then this guy says, I wish I had a 7600, 7600.
Yep.
And there's Ryan with his beard. Dude, you look like, Ryan, you look like you're straight out of Duck Dynasty with that beard and your gun, bro.
It ain't long enough. All right.
But either way, I don't know how to answer that. Oh, final question. Okay, this goes from our man Jim.
Final question.
No, I didn't know how to answer that one. Jim says, what's the right amount of M&Ms to eat in a single sitting? My answer is yes.
Yeah, as many
All
as
of
fit my belly.
I read somewhere where in order to work off the amount of calories that you've eaten from one M&M, you have to walk the length of a football field.
You know,
is that true?
Probably. I don't know. I'd have to look at the calories in the serving size. You know, typically you get a bag of M&Ms, you're like, oh, that's a serving size. No, it's like 3.5 servings.
You know, Janelle still owes me M&Ms, the espresso M&Ms. She still owes me.
You said she didn't owe you.
I know, but
she said I'll give you some.
But she feels guilty when I do this, so Janelle still owes me.
That's terrible.
But those M&Ms were so good. The espresso ones, I just kept staying in there eating them.
Yeah, they were all right.
I think I brought this up. Have you had gummy Skittles yet?
Gummy Skittles.
Like, they look like Skittles, but there's no hard shell. It's just gummy, but it tastes just like a Skittle. I thought it was the weirdest crap. My brother walked in with like the one from Costco, and I pounded like half the bag. It was bad. It was a bad day.
So it's not just the meatloaf that's giving you the pooch.
No, it's the fact that I don't actively play sports anymore that gives me the pooch.
You're getting to be old.
Oh, I'm getting old, dude. I took a 15-minute nap the other day, and I couldn't move my neck to the left side for 2 days straight. It hurts so bad, and I'm not kidding.
All right, well, let's jump into the review now.
Speaking of food, this one's left from the bologna.
Is it bologna or bologna?
It's bologna.
Or is it bologna?
Bologna.
Bologna. All right, it says, please listen to them from the bologna.
No. With like 5 exclamation points. So this review's like, please listen to them.
This is a special service announcement. Please listen to them. I don't know.
We're wired.
It says, yo!
What up, my dude?
That's what it says.
I hope it's my dude.
It's like 16 O's. Yo! Not really, but
yo.
It's like 10.
Okay.
I am so thankful for your podcast. I've recently found you guys and have been listening nonstop. I love your views on a lot of the topics you touch on. That is not necessarily old school, but also is not super new age either. I'm currently listening to the podcast If God Cares on How We Dress.
Oh,
and I totally
that was a good one.
Agree with your points.
But we didn't even fully agree.
Yeah, we did.
Did we?
Yeah. See, this is your problem. You don't remember nothing. This is the problem with our marriage.
Too many kids. Too many kids, guys.
I've grown up in an old school church where you're always judged on what you wear, and I get a lot of complaints when I wear something different. But your podcast made me realize that God cares more of how I truly follow him. Preach. Thank you so much for all the topics and all the laughs. I've been able to use your material and teach to our youth group in our church.
Oh.
I also love that you guys send Bibles to people who need them and do not expect anything in return. Thank you for being true to the word. Much love from Stephenville, Texas.
Oh, another Texas.
God bless y'all.
You know, I feel like we need to do an
Texas.
RDC meetup in Texas.
Texas.
That's an excuse.
Why we're there?
That's the excuse for an expense report.
Why there? We could just go and be like part of the extras in The Chosen too, because that's where they do a lot of the filming.
Wait. Pause. They record it in Texas?
Yeah, bro.
Really?
Where you been?
I have been listening to something from The Chosen. So, like the guy they interviewed, the guy who plays Judas. It's like someone has to play him.
Yeah, and he does a phenomenal job.
Phenomenal.
With it. But did you know Dallas used to only live like right outside of Chicago?
Yeah, he was I had to go digging because I was listening to an episode where he was talking about how they casted the roles,
right? And
he used the guy who plays Jesus in a short film that he made for his church in Illinois. That's all he said. I'm like, oh, what church were you a part of? He was part of James McDonald's Vertical Church. He was on the OG media team for Vertical Church. Wow. Which Vertical Worship comes out of, all the Harvest Network. So if you have a Harvest Church near you, that's where they all came from. And he was like the lead film guy for Vertical Church.
That's
now
cool.
James McDonald kind of like self-imploded the whole mug because that was rough to watch. But either way, I thought it was really cool that he was a local church guy using his media skills.
Yep. So now he lives in Texas. Texas. I don't know where at in Texas, but he lives in Texas.
Not in Illinois.
Not in Illinois, but in Texas.
But so they literally film it. I thought they would go out back to the Middle East to film.
They do a lot. They're set. Well, so they rent a place in Utah.
Now that makes sense. The mountainous terrain.
They do a part in Utah, but they do a bunch of the screening. Like when they did the feeding of the 5,000, it was in Texas.
Really?
It was, yeah.
Man, they do a really good job not making it look like the States.
I know. It's amazing.
Dude, okay, so I was watching one video from the Chosen where Dallas Jenkins was with who's the guy that plays Jesus?
Jonathan Rumi.
I know, like Jonathan Rumi, because he's a devout Catholic. He actually uses the word, I'm a born-again Catholic is how he words it, which I think is fascinating. But they got to go meet the Pope.
Yeah.
And so they were talking about...
That was like a year and a half ago.
I just watched the video, though, of them talking about
you're
what
so
it's
behind.
like to... Bro, I'm catching up.
I thought you were like on the cutting edge.
Judge not, lest ye be judged.
I thought you were cutting edge of like the culture nowadays.
I just finished Big Bang Theory last night.
Dang, you're really behind.
I've been keeping up with other shows and other things called kids. And
don't lie.
That's
don't lie.
That's
because if it was Madam Secretary, you'd been caught up way before.
I paid for like Paramount.
Yeah,
I paid for Paramount Plus the first day it came out just to watch Madam Secretary. But they're talking about the different views of Protestant Catholicism and these crossovers, and I'm like, man, the Chosen's having a lot of really cool conversations among themselves, even with the actors and their stories and whatnot. So it's kind of cool to see these actors who are portraying the disciples or portraying Jesus or part of the film crew, and they're having these bigger conversations around the gospel.
But one thing they haven't talked about, which I wish they would dive into, dinosaurs.
But we're going to talk about it.
And we're going to talk about it today.
So buckle up, y'all. So this was a conversation that was brought up a few different times in the Facebook
group. Oh, my goodness.
Man.
It's been brought up so many times. It's like, all right, let's talk about it.
Which I guess because my son loves dinosaurs so much, I don't even think to have these conversations.
I just remember... the one episode when we were talking about the intro and you were like, roar.
Roar.
Roar. Because you thought it was the dinosaur episode. Roar.
No, we were talking about the Nephilim.
Yeah, right.
Or Nephilim, or Nephilium, whatever you want to say.
Nephilim,
They're really giant people, and I thought we were talking about dinosaurs that week, and I screwed up.
The great men of old.
That was literally 6 episodes ago, something like that.
I don't know.
But wait.
Anyways.
Roar. Let's do it.
Roar.
All right, so we're talking about dinosaurs today.
Right,
let's do
dinosaurs.
Why are we talking about this?
And why are we talking about it? Because you asked us to talk about it.
Let's do it.
So we're going to do the best we can, and forgive us if we butcher. Like Mark said, judge not, lest you be judged. I don't know. But we're going to roll with it.
We're going to roll with it. Let's do it.
I love what what our friends at gotquestions.org has to say.
That was impressive. That was really impressive.
About the topic of dinosaurs. They say, the topic of dinosaurs in the Bible is part of a larger ongoing debate within the Christian community over the age of the earth, the proper interpretation of Genesis, and how to interpret the physical evidence we find all around us. Those who believe in an older age for the earth tend to agree that the Bible does not mention dinosaurs because, according to the paradigm, dinosaurs died out millions of years before the first man ever walked the earth. The men who wrote the Bible could not have seen living dinosaurs.
And that's if you believe in older than evolution, because they died way before humans showed up.
And we talked about this and can you have faith and science? And we talked about old Earth creationists and new Earth creationists and kind of dove into that whole topic. But those who believe in a younger age for the Earth tend to agree that the Bible does mention dinosaurs, though it never actually uses the word dinosaur, quote unquote.
Quote unquote.
Instead, it uses the Hebrew word tenem, which is translated a few different ways in the English Bibles. Sometimes it's sea monster and sometimes it's serpent. It is most commonly translated as dragon.
Which is so dope.
Dragon. The tenon appear to have some sort of giant reptile. These creatures are mentioned nearly 30 times in the Old Testament and were found both on land and in water.
Which is fascinating. Now, I do have to say, they're called prehistoric marine reptiles, okay? They are not dinosaurs if they're in the water. If they're in the sky, they're just prehistoric.
No, bro. We call them flying dinosaurs, swimming dinosaurs, and land roaming dinosaurs.
Elliot's going to correct you if he hears this episode, boss.
Elliot, I love you, buddy.
He's a T-Rex in the family. Lennox is a Triceratops. Moving on. That's their
true.
stuff.
That's true. So when we talk about dinosaurs, what are some of the references that we can see tenon in, right? That's the Hebrew word that they're talking about here. So the big one, right, comes from Job 41, and that's talking about Leviathan.
The Leviathan, yep.
The Leviathan. And, man, this is a lot of reading. Why did I put so much in here?
Don't be monotoned.
Yeah, that's the big thing. So, Job 41. Can you pull in Leviathan with a hook or tie his tongue down with a rope? Can you put a cord through his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he beg you for mercy?
No, I will say this is when Jesus was talking to Job and being like, "Who were you with this? Could you do this? Can you do this?" And then he goes into like, "What about the Leviathan, boss?"
Yeah, so he's talking. Yeah, exactly. So, will he make a covenant with you so that you can take him as a slave forever? Can you play with him like a bird or put him in the leash for your girls? Will traders bargain for him or divide him among the merchants? Can you fill his hide with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Lay a hand on him, you will remember the battle and never repeat it. Basically saying he going to destroy you.
You're going to die.
Any hope of capturing him proves false. Does a person not collapse at the very sight of him? He must have been pretty big because it scared the tar out of him. No one is ferocious enough to rouse Leviathan, who then can stand against me. And it goes on from there. But that's all Job 41. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that's basically what it's saying. It's God saying, hey, yeah, you guys can't even handle this big old Leviathan, this tannin, and without fearing and dying and not surviving the battle. And you're going to question me? That's what God is talking about. But yeah, there's a whole thing of description of.
Now, it does say, though, if you keep going on, we're talking about his snorts flash with lightning.
Yep.
Smoke billows from his nostrils.
Right.
His
Sparks
breath sets
fly
coals
out.
ablaze.
Right.
His heart is hard as a rock. His heart is a lower millstone. He has scales on his belly. I'm just summing up. Like,
straight
the dude
up
was a freaking beast.
Straight up description of what we consider a dragon, right? Hey, man, he's what does it say? His eyes are like rays of dawn. Flame torches shoot from his mouth, which means he's breathing fire. Fiery sparks fly out. Smoke billows from his nostrils as from boiling pot or burning reeds. His breath sets coals ablaze and flames pour out of his mouth. Strength resides in his neck and dismay dances before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together solid as metal and immovable. Man, that sounds scary.
Like, the dude's a freaking monster.
His heart is hard as rock, as hard as a lower millstone. Ooh.
And so we could see this passage in Job. Okay, so they're talking about Job. Is he talking about like because Job is a version of poetry, the way it's written. So it's like, oh, maybe this was just an allegory, or maybe this was just a piece of the puzzle. Like, we're not really talking about a beast, right?
Well,
like,
I don't know, because it's comparing, if we take that Job 41, he's comparing God saying, hey, you guys can't stand against this beast. How are you standing against me?
Right, but what I'm saying, someone might have the objection and say, well, the same way that Satan appeared in heaven, can we really fully, is that really how it works, or is that just how we kind of explain it? So, like, is it real or not? And what I'm setting you up for is there's other passages that talk about the Leviathan, right? There
are a few more passages. There's one in Isaiah 27:1 where Isaiah says, on the day of the Lord, with his relentless, large, strong sword will bring judgment on Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisted serpent. He will slay the monster that is in the sea. Oh.
So, okay, but question, though, is this first talking about, like, the actual day of the Lord, like Revelation, Jesus coming down? And
maybe.
And is he talking about Satan? Like, is Satan the serpent of old? So is Satan the Leviathan?
Maybe, but why is Satan, when was Satan ever described as being in the sea? He will slay the monster that is in the sea.
So the Leviathan is in the sea?
Well, I mean, that's what Isaiah's saying, right?
Right.
So let's go back up.
But it talks about he has fire from his nostrils.
Yeah, but it doesn't say his heart is hot.
Well, no, it doesn't. Can you fill his hide with harpoons or his head with fishing spears?
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you would think that, okay, he's probably in the sea, right? This is more of a sea creature. So what Psalm 74:13-14 says? What does David say? He says, you divide the sea with your strength and smash the heads of the sea monsters in the water. You crush the heads of Leviathan. The heads? Okay. Ooh, that's plural. You fed him to the creature of the desert. So wait, hang on. Time out a sec. David, you're telling me that there's something that ate the Leviathan? There's creatures in the desert that ate the Leviathan after you destroyed him? Because it says you crushed the heads of the Leviathan.
Right. And was Isaiah after David?
I thought so.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
So is Leviathan?
So is Leviathan got like?
Well, I'm asking, is Leviathan just like okay? Remember how
this is real conversation right here because
right,
there ain't nothing past that.
No. So like with the Nephilim, like some people believe that it's just that like which I even kind of lean to in some regards that they're just the giant like there's these giant men. So are Leviathan just these giant beasts?
Possibly, but again, we have to go back to the description that we see out of Job, right? Which is it's pretty explicit, right? It's pretty detail oriented. Why would there need to be that much detail in it, right? Unless it was something that was possibly true. I don't know.
Let's keep reading.
All right, so Psalm 104, 24 through 26 says, "How countless are your works, Lord! In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Here is the sea, vast and wide, teeming with creatures beyond number, living things both large and small. There are ships, there the ships move about, and Leviathan, which you formed to play there." So Leviathan's playing in the sea. It's just another term of you see that word Leviathan used again, which is the tenon, right? That's that Hebrew word.
Which, okay, tenon. Now, some people think the Leviathan could be more of like an elasmosaur. Are you tracking with me on Elasmosaurus or a plesiosaur?
It's a big-looking dinosaur platypus thing.
It's a prehistoric marine reptile, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta watch Dino Dana more.
No. Okay.
But, there's been a lot, like the Loch Ness Monster. Like, is this the Loch Ness Monster is what is it talking about?
Sure.
I'm genuinely curious.
Right. And you know what? That's a good question. And maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'll shut my mouth. Let's keep going.
Maybe. I don't know.
Let's keep going. I want you to make sure you get through your content.
I ain't got much. I'm just bringing out what I could find. All right. So
that's Leviathan.
So we talked about Leviathan. So then let's talk about Behemoth, right? There was another creature called Behemoth. And where's it found? Oh, it's found in Job 40. So the chapter before Leviathan, you hear about Behemoth.
Okay.
15 through 24 says, "Look at Behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like cattle. Look at the strength of his back and the power and the muscles of his belly. He stiffens his tail like a cedar tree. The tendons of his thighs are woven firmly together. His bones are bronze tubes. His limbs are like iron rods. He is the foremost of God's work. Only his maker can draw the sword against him." Whoa, that's a pretty big one, right?
Sounds like a brachiosaurus to me.
That's what I think too. The hills yield food for him, while all sorts of wild animals play there. He lies under the lotus plants, hiding in the protection of marshy reeds. Lotus plants cover him with their shade. The willows of the brooks surround him. Though the rivers rages, Behemoth is unafraid. He remains confident, even as the Jordan surges up to his mouth. Can anyone capture him while he looks on, or pierce his nose with snares? Sounds like another pretty big creature of some sort, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So, could it be that dinosaurs were created before mankind and were just referred to, right? Maybe this is something that was happened before, maybe it's just the tales of old, as you would say, right?
That's what I was thinking too.
So maybe in that
like
description,
yeah.
maybe that's why God's using it, right? It's a descriptive, mythological. Maybe I don't know. Well, let's see what the Bible has to say. So Genesis 1:20 through 25 says, "Then God said."
Now you sound weird.
Why?
Because you're
too much inflection.
Too much inflection.
"Then God said, let the water swarm with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky. So God created the large sea creatures and every living creature that moves and swarms in the water." So why did he make the distinction there in verse 21? So God created the large sea creatures and every living creature that moves and swarms in the water, according to their kinds.
I mean, think about it. We have the big blue whale that's still freakishly huge.
Sure. It's interesting how he said large sea creature. It's just interesting, right? I'm just pointing out
there's large sea creatures.
There's a difference between living creatures
in the water.
Right. There's a difference between living creatures and large sea creatures.
Yep.
The Bible makes that distinction. He also created every winged creature according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them. "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters of the sea, and let the birds multiply on earth." evening came, and then morning, the fifth day. Then God said, let the earth produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock creatures that crawl, and the wildlife of the earth according to their kinds. And it was so. So God made the wildlife of the earth according to their kinds, and livestock according to their kinds, and all creatures that crawled on the ground according to their kinds. And God saw it was good. So when was that? When would that all take place? Oh,
That's creation.
23, verse 23 said fifth day. When was man created?
Sixth day.
The sixth day.
Why'd you set me up for that?
So
Come on.
So okay, well that's one scripture, right? Don't build a theology out of one scripture. Well, what's another one? Genesis 2:1-3. So the heavens and the earth and everything in them were complete. On the seventh day, God had completed his work, and he had done, and he rested. On the seventh day from all his work that he had done, God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, for he rested from all his work of creation. So the important part here, right, is what did God do? What did he say? So in the heavens and the earth, everything in them were completed, which means he made every creature he was going to make. And they were going to produce, like we saw in Genesis 1, after their kinds. But he wasn't going to go create new species. It was just he created that, and then they produced after that, right? That's what that scripture says to me.
Yep.
All right. So
I'm keeping my opinions locked in. I'm keeping my opinions locked in.
He created everything during these times, all right? But we still have, we still have something, right? Who knows? I don't remember why I brought this one in here.
You were talking about the fact of if they lived at the same time, probably because of day is a day. So God created on day one day, the next day was man.
Right. So, okay. So now we're tracking. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now we're tracking. Okay. So we see that all right, we saw fifth day, these sea creatures, these animals. The sixth day, man was created. And the seventh day, God rested after he had created everything he was going to create. But what happens? Was it an old earth still? Could that one day, there's that scripture that says a day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years is unto a day. There's that scripture. That's the one we always hang on to. There's really, in that creation process, did it actually a day mean a day? Did a day mean a day? So we look at Genesis 2:1-3. God rested from his creation after the seventh day, right? That he took that Sabbath. Exodus 20, verses 8-11 talks about a Sabbath. It says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. You are to labor for 6 days, or yamim, and do all your work. But the seventh day, yamim, is a Sabbath day to the Lord your God. Yamim is the Hebrew word, which is also the same as what we see up in the Genesis 2:1-3 passage. You must not do any work. You, your son or daughter, your male or female servant, your livestock, your resident alien who is sitting with you at the city gates. For the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and everything in them in 6 days. Yamim, same Hebrew word. Then he rested on the seventh day. Yamim, same word for that day, right? The morning and the evening. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and declared it holy. Yamim is an ancient Hebrew word, is from the form of yom, a word nearly universally recognized as having multiple literal meanings, including a 24-hour day, daylight hours, and an indefinite period of time. So it's used in that same aspect, but we typically say it's a day, right? Because other places where that same word is used, it's always translated as a 24-hour period. We also looked at it, we see in the Genesis 1 passage where it talks about morning and evening, right? When we talked about this in the faith and science episode a little bit.
And I do think there is some room to give. And people are going to be really mad when they hear me say that. But I do think there's room and there's space at the Orthodox Christian table to view these days as, okay, is day 5 really just one day? Or do we really not know how long it was? Or the level of how long were Adam and Eve really in the garden?
Well, so I'll give you we don't know how long they were in the garden aspect, but we do know how long the fifth day was, because at the end of the fifth day of creation, there was morning and evening.
Right.
How often does morning and evening happen?
Oh, it's only one and one.
It's a once in a 24-hour period, right? Morning and evening.
And I'm going to say where my brain sometimes thinks is the fact of, because I've always wondered this, I've always had the question of why did Now, I know the answer of why, but it's like, why would God take 6 days to create all these things, and the seventh day he rested when he could have all done it in like that, you know?
Because he's setting it up.
And that's why some people say, you know, it was an allegory to set up the 7 days of creation. And was it a literal 7 days or was it not? You know, I do think there is some room in there for disagreement. I'm being honest with you. I know I definitely lean towards the fact of a literal 7 day because we see that's how God set up the world. That's how we see we're supposed to recognize Shabbat in terms of the Jewish customs. Right. That's how Jesus recognized it. That's how the apostles recognized it. That's how we recognize it today. I mean, there's always been a universal first day of the week. I mean, obviously we've had different calendar setups, but there's always been a work for 6, rest for 1, or work all 7, or work for 5, rest for 2.
So,
like, you know,
but why? Why are we doing that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's the world is just set up that way. Like our actual planet Earth is set up that way.
Right, but it's a remembrance thing, right?
Yes.
We do our labor for 6 days and rest on the 7th as a remembrance because that is what God did.
Correct.
He created the earth in 6 days. He rested on the 7th.
Yep.
That's the Sabbath.
And so if we take that to be a 6 literal days of creation, then we would have to say that man walked with dinosaurs. But then there's a lot of people who have either old earth creationism or theistic evolution that then gives them the opportunity to say, you know, there is the Jurassic and the Jurassic and all these different periods, and that's why we have all these different layers of sediment and all that kind of different stuff. And I can still see how people, even through this point, are wrestling together. You know, and I'm glad you brought this next question up, and I'll kind of let you segue into it.
Well, before we leave this,
there's one more verse.
No, I want to continue on with this conversation now because when we look at each individual day, I have a problem with I see sequential things happening here, right? Mm-hmm. So I will give you between the 7th day and the time when they were kicked out of the garden is an unknown period.
Yeah, because we just don't know. We don't know how long they were actually in there.
Because there was no death before sin. And sin did not come in until disobedience to God.
Correct.
So it could have been 1 day to us, an evening and a morn. It could have been 1,000,000 years. I don't know, right? It doesn't clearly spell out. Now, I would think that I would lean more towards the way things progressed in the scriptures and how they kind of seemed clueless and oblivious to it all. I would think it would be sooner rather than later, Adam and Eve. Now, that's just me and my interpretation of me reading the scriptures. I don't know for sure, and I'm not going to say that I know for sure.
And there's a lot of, and that's the thing is, and again, I'm not trying to be wishy-washy, but there's a lot of works right now, like William Lane Craig not William Lane Craig. I say William Lane Craig because I listen to British talk shows too much where they interview him, and they say Bill Craig. But like he has this book that just came out talking about like the historicity of Adam and Eve, and he believes that yes, Adam and Eve are real people, but there were Neanderthals type creations around it. And I know Ken Ham will have the idea of the fact that if you start with the Bible and then you have all your lens point out everywhere else instead of start with science and then try to pop it into the Bible, and you have those different struggles. But with this conversation, I really think the biggest thing comes down to, and this is why I've always had this question of, okay, so is there a way for us to have archaeological evidence? And I'm not trying to say the next question. This is really where my brain goes. Is, you know, can we actually say that dinosaurs walked with man? Because I think the biggest question that Elliot has asked me, that other kids have asked me, teenagers have asked me, where they say, okay, so if you can pull up dino bones next to human bones, well then, yeah, I will believe that they all walk together.
All right.
But are we able to?
But we need to backtrack first.
But I'm saying we could go that way in order to come back.
Well,
because if we say they all walk together, well, then that would prove a 6-day literal creation.
But before we get to that, right? I'm still wrestling with you on this aspect a little bit.
Okay.
Because I have to look at it. You said, okay, you know, Ken Ham would look at it through the Bible and try to make science fit, whereas William Lane Craig would make like the science and try to make the Bible fit.
Not try to make the Bible fit, but interpret them both together, I would say.
So I would disagree with that approach.
To which one?
To the look at science and then try to fit together the Bible. Why? Because is the word the inspired word of God?
Yes.
Is it 100% correct?
Yes.
Is it 100% true?
But is it 100% a science book? That's what people ask.
But see, that's people in a science lens trying to fit the Bible in.
Okay.
I'm not trying to do that. I'm saying that God is saying, right? Exodus 31, 16 through 17. The Israelites must observe the Sabbath, celebrating it throughout their generations as a permanent covenant. It is a sign forever between me and the Israelites. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, but the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Now, if you ask William Lane Craig, well, that 6 days was not a literal 6 days. It was a figurative. That's what he says. And that's,
well, I don't know if he says that, but
he does say that.
Oh, okay.
And that's the problem with taking your scientific view first, right? I have to go by what I know is the truth. Scientific view has changed so much, and it still continues to evolve every single year, right? New discoveries happen, and they change their theology.
I know. I really like how you used that word evolve. I thought that was clever. Keep going.
So, but it changes, right? The perception of science changes. We learn new things every. Did you know we still haven't fully mapped the human DNA? Haven't fully mapped it yet, but we're still learning, right? We're still learning.
I'm learning a lot about genetics right now with my kids.
So what I'm looking at is I'm going to take the Bible, which I know is 100% truth.
Okay.
And I'm going to use that as my lens.
And I will say the Bible has held up for all the things, and it has shown a decent and orderly creation. It's not chaos. It's not chance. It looks like it was all fashioned together. So my question is, as long as someone believes in that point, does it really matter how they believe we got here from A to Z?
Sure, maybe.
You know?
So point in case, right?
Okay.
I'll give you an example. King David.
Okay.
Did you know that scientists and archaeologists did not believe King David actually existed until 10 years ago? And why? Because they finally found some archaeological evidence that King David was written about, that he actually existed.
Really?
Up until 10 years ago,
I did not know that.
They thought it was just a fairy tale from the Bible.
Okay.
They'd never really believed that he actually existed. And there's other characters in the Bible that they don't believe existed until they're finding evidence that they do.
That's like a big, massive suck it from the Jews.
But that's what I'm saying, right? So we can go, I'm going to rely on science to prove the Bible. And it's like, no, first of all science is going to do is going to muddy the waters, because it's like me saying, I'm going to read Greek before I know how to read anything. Like, I don't understand. Like, you can't look at it that way, right? You have to learn the basics of the language you know, and then from there you can study another language to learn that language, right? If you know English and you don't study how English works, how are you going to read the context or understand the context to read about Greek? You know what I'm saying? Take a Greek book.
I'm not understanding, because people who speak only Spanish and not English.
Take a Greek book.
Right.
And the Greek book is explaining you Greek in English.
In English, gotcha. Okay.
Or you don't understand
explaining
English.
Greek in Spanish or in French or in Portuguese, whatever
language.
Russian. Yeah. Okay.
Unless you understand that language of how it's explaining the Greek to you, you'll never know.
Gotcha. I'm tracking. Yeah.
All right. So it's like, if you don't know how to read, then how are you supposed to know how to read, kind of thing? You know what I mean? So
but what I'm saying is does it? I'm not saying does it. I'm saying I think there are seats at the table for different viewpoints. This is where I think Ken Ham is a little arrogant. I do think there are seats at the table for other viewpoints of how creation happened. As long as you say God created, God established, and God orchestrated.
I'm not saying Ken Ham's right. I'm not saying William. I'm saying Scripture is right. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying anybody who does not look through the lens of the Bible first is mistaken.
And you and I both agree with that.
That's all I'm saying.
And you and I both agree with that. Now, if someone had to pin me down and say, Mark, what do you actually believe? I'd say, I believe in a 6-day literal creation, because if you start at Jesus, this is all what Jesus taught and believed and learned in Torah school, and that's how he taught it as well. So it all lines up. It all makes sense.
To me, again, you have to put on the lens of, I'm looking at anything through the lens of Scripture, right? Through the words of God, because God is not a man that he should lie. Now, I know men lie, make mistakes, cheat, try to get ahead. That's what men do. That's science. Well, no, I don't want to get weird science, because most early science were Christians, you know?
Sure. Because they said, I want to study the magnitude and glory of God.
I said, get things wrong, lie, cheat, and try to get ahead. My first thing was get things wrong. And I think even though they were Christians early on, they still got stuff wrong.
Well, because they were trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure it out.
They're man.
Right.
And we're going to make mistakes. That's what I'm saying. If you put your faith solely in science to prove the Bible, you're already behind. It's just like if you put archaeology first ahead of what the Bible says, you're already going to. I mean,
the Bible has Bible is a lot of archaeology.
Now, if you use the Bible as your starting reference, it proves a lot of things.
And I'd say archaeology backs it up.
Sure.
And a lot of science has backed up the Bible. And, I guess the thing we have to make sure we get back on track is why are we having this discussion right here? Because it all goes back to, could dinosaurs walk with man and man walk with dinosaurs? You know? Right. Because if there was a long gap, millions of years, there was a chance that maybe they didn't walk together. Well, but is there archaeological proof
So
of the dinosaurs walking with man?
Is there archaeological proof that the dinosaurs and humans coexisted? Right. So there's a couple things that
and I actually I'm not prepared for this part. So I don't know.
The Stegosaurus of Cambodia. And I put two things in here about that, but I'm wondering, I think I got that one wrong. That was supposed to be something else. I'll have to go back and look. So the ruins of...
the second one's supposed to be like the Brachiosaurus, the Brontosaurus, or the Apatosaurus.
Something like that.
And keep going.
The petroglyph or whatever. Yeah, but anyways, the Stegosaurus of Cambodia, the ruins of Ta Prohm, I'm probably going to butcher these words, but that's all right, which stands today in the overgrown jungles of Cambodia, were chosen by one of the major preservation societies to be left in its natural state, as an example of how most of the Angkor looked on its discovery in the 19th century. Intrinsically carved statues and stone columns filled the temple monastery. On the stones, the ancients depicted animals, people, gods, various plants, and a host of other decorative images. But one column of carvings maintained a special interest to those in dinosaurs and human coexistence. Concerning this particular column, Freeman and Jacques wrote, on the angles and corners of the porches and numerous small scenes and representations of animals, both real and mythical. Page 144. Of special note, the authors wrote about one of the carved animals, saying, among the vertical strip of roundels in the angle between the south wall of the porch and the east wall of the main body of the Gopura, there is even a very convincing representation of a Stegosaurus. In the other book of Angkor, Jacques, I don't know, and Freeman were even more emphatic, saying that the animal bears a striking resemblance to a Stegosaurus.
The next one is the Apatosaurus of southeastern Utah.
Apatosaurus, yeah, thank you.
The
Apatosaurus of southern...
not Apotoma, Apatosaurus.
Apatosaurus.
Like Eupotosaurus.
Apatosaurus of southern Utah. So on the underside of the third largest natural bridge in the world, the Kachini Bridge, several petroglyphs and pictographs exist, with rock art experts believed to be somewhere between 500 and 1,500 years old. 500, 1,500 years. So this is like post-Jesus.
Right, this is recent.
The carvings are believed to be the work of the Anazi Indians who once lived in the area of southern Utah, or southeastern Utah. A mountain goat, a human figure, multiple handprints, and other carvings and drawings can be seen quite easily underneath the bridge on both sides of the span. The most fascinating piece of the rock art in the Kachini Bridge, however, is the petroglyph of a dinosaur located to the right corner, or the right of the span, from about 10 feet from the ground. The figure, which is carved into rock, has a long, thick tail, a long neck, wide midsection, and a small head. The unbiased visitor to Kachini Bridge would have to admit that this particular petroglyph looks like a dinosaur, specifically an Apatosaurus, more popularly known as a Brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus.
Bronto. So there's a couple things. There's some petroglyphs and some drawings and cave art and carvings that and there's many, many more. I just didn't want to put them all in here. That kind of give some inclination that there's some sort of insight to what they could have looked like, right? Because 1,500 years ago, they weren't digging up dinosaur bones and using computer model imaging to say, hey, this is what a dinosaur could have looked like, right? And so, well, how'd they know what they looked like then? And how are they still represented kind of what we think as today with all of our computer imaging stuff?
Like that's definitely the one of the questions.
So to me, it's not a, hey, this is the nail in the coffin, but it's like, well, if it's this old, right? And there was these things were around, it's hard to just say it was a mythical creature, right? I don't know. That's just my perception of it, I guess. So you look like you're looking into something.
I am, because the biggest question I've always had is have we ever found human remains with dinosaur bones? Like, that is one question I've always had.
Well, yeah, but even if you had human remains with dinosaur bones, doesn't mean anything.
Right, because it says, this is an article, it says, it has long been stated that since human and dinosaur fossils are never found together, therefore they do not coexist. And this person, Brody Hage, takes issue with this fallacy.
So, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, I think, that you could look to and go through it yourself. But let's continue on since we're already
keep going. No, keep going. You keep going.
Where are the dinosaurs today, basically, right? You know, are they around? Are they not around? You know, there's been some rumors. Oh, we caught this over in the South China Sea. We caught something that looks like a, what are they called? The sea swimming ones.
Prehistoric marine reptiles?
No, what are they called though? There you got the Bronchiosaurus, you got the Stegosaurus. There's something that they're called, and I forget what they're called. But anyways, found out. I've heard rumors of, there's pterodactyls in Paris. You know, they fly around.
The flying dinosaurs.
Well, there's those too, but that's what I'm saying. The pterodactyls, the flying dinosaurs.
Yeah, pterodactylus. And
right. So where are they today? From a biblical perspective, the most likely explanation for the extinction of the dinosaurs is a worldwide flood described in Genesis 6 and 7, right? If they were around with humans, more than likely, that probably would have wiped most of them out. Soon after the flood, mankind began to rapidly decrease in size and the length of years. There was a class of very large animals which perished at the flood. God knew the strength of man would decrease, and the mammoth animals could not be controlled by feeble men. This is what BibleInfo.com says. So could the flood be what David was referring to in Psalm 74? And that's where it said, you divided the sea with your strength and smashed the heads of the sea monsters in the water. You crushed the heads of the Leviathan. You fed him to the creatures of the desert. Right? That was what David said in Psalm 74. And I would say, my opinion is, it's plausible, right? I don't think there's enough definitive evidence to say, yeah, that's exactly what David was describing was the flood waters, and that's how the sea monsters
crushed the head. And the day of the Lord is Isaiah.
That's Isaiah. This is Psalm, right? But if he was going to kill the sea monsters, right, and he split the waters and he fed them to the desert, a worldwide flood would make sense of how he could possibly do that, right? So it's plausible, but not definitive. So I guess at this point, right, do we have evidence? Do we have enough evidence to say, yes, they walked with it? I think if we look at the Genesis 1 account, and if God truly created everything and was done with creation at the end of the seventh day, and we take those days literally, I would say, yes, at some point humans roam with the dinosaurs. What happened to the dinosaurs? There are a couple plausible reasons of things that could have happened. One, I think that time spans that we don't know about, there's something could have happened in there. I find it hard to believe, though, because, between Adam and Eve leaving the garden, and my only thing is no sin means no death. Death is a result of sin. So the animals back then probably wouldn't have died until after they were getting kicked out of the garden.
Okay.
So that's point number one, right? So I would say that they probably live with Adam and Eve, at least. The most plausible why they're not around, to me, scripturally, what I'm looking at is the shortened lifespan. I think maybe they just died off, extinction. There could have been some other catastrophe. We know there was a worldwide flood, and that probably took out most of them. There was the mighty men of old. Maybe they did some of it. Maybe the Nephilim took care of it. There's nothing definitive beyond that, but we see some stuff in where David talks about God had wiped out the sea monsters. Whatever that sea monster is, God wiped them out. So God killed some. We see that from David. But I think naturally over time, maybe just they died out.
But at the same time, like some of what I was reading was the fact of why don't we ever find them together? And there's obviously some interpretations that we have because we believe that the Earth we're looking at right now, although separated and maybe it was one big massive landmass, it could have been that these dinosaurs lived on a whole other different part of the world, like the Americas, than where humans lived. And so there is the possibility of the reason why we don't ever see humans with man fossils is because the fact of when the flood happened, the center of populace was all in one giant area and animals were kind of scattered all across the different parts of God's creation. And so when the floods did happen, they were already separated. But, I do think there's a level of...
But separation, all right, look at mass flood. What does it do?
Well, no. I agree with it. It wipes.
But it doesn't just wipe off the surface. It digs into the ground and wipes things out. So I mean, you would think you would still see stuff mixed up. Right?
In some regards, yeah.
So I would just caution. I would just caution that we don't know. It's speculation, so don't die on any hill. That's where my final word on it is. Right? Is that you can't speculate. And I get what you're saying. Right? There's no evidence that so far that we found any dinosaur bones and human bones that we know of found together.
But here's the big thing. Okay, is it opinion time?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're down to opinion time, and then I got one last little small thing.
Okay, cool. So my opinion with the dinosaurs is multifaceted. In one regards, I do believe that a lot of what we have created dinosaurs to be is false. I do think a lot of times that they take like one bone from one dinosaur, which is true. There are some dinosaurs that they have found like one or two bones. They're like, oh, this must be a dinosaur because they go, okay, how deep down, what layer of sediment? Oh, it must be a dinosaur, so we do it there. And so I do think that a lot of dinosaurs that we actually have, this is just my opinion here, is sometimes different species of the same thing. Like if you find 10 different dog bones at different layers, they would say, oh, those are 10 individual different dogs in different layers and different times and different millennia, different centuries, whatever. Whereas first, like, nah, bruh, like a Chihuahua is the exact same as like a Saint Bernard, as is a Maltese. It's a dog. Sure. It's a dog. And so with these dinosaurs, I do think that there was such a thing as a T-Rex because we have the skull and we have other pieces and we have, the Stegosaurus with the bumps. We see the pictures that have different things. So they had to be around in some regards. So I do think they did walk. I don't fully understand why the bones aren't together, but I do think in some regards, when we have these different dinosaurs, I ask the question of, are there really this many dinosaurs, or are people starting at the simple fact of, since they're at different layers, they must have been different dinosaurs that have evolved over time, and now we're trying to pinhole all these different things that we see, so we're creating this massive species of all the dinosaurs that we see.
Sure.
I do fully believe that there are such things as dinosaurs, but I do think that if we found certain skeletons of animals right now and we stick them back then, we just maybe assume those are dinosaurs. That's why some Christians don't believe in dinosaurs, that these things are just fictitious. That's like, oh, that's just an ancient giraffe, and that's just an ancient this, and that's just an ancient elephant, and that's just an ancient that.
But then, again, I go back to the Job 41 and how descriptive that was.
And I agree with you. So I fully believe that there were dinosaurs out there. I do think a lot of animals that we have today are very similar to what the dinosaurs are. And I've even there's like that game out there right now where it's, take the skull of the hippo and then an artistic rendering of a hippo, but what it really is.
Right.
Same with all these different animals. So I really do think there are such things like the T-Rex and the Triceratops and the Stegosaurus and the Brachiosaurus, because we do have fossil records for all these animals. But the question is why don't we see them anymore? And I think it's the fact of, maybe like other species that we've had, we in our own lifetime have seen species gone extinct or almost gone extinct.
Sure.
So there could have been plenty of animals that gone extinct. And maybe the world was built different way back in the day where the animals were just bigger, the same way the way humans were just built.
Well, and we have to also,
longer too.
And we also have to keep into mindset that animals roamed, right?
Right, and that's what. And that's exactly what I was saying. Is animals typically went whoosh, out and roamed, and then humans stayed in one populous area.
We stayed in one populous.
And that's what I was saying before, and maybe that's where I didn't segue that well.
But I mean, that could be, but I would still think that we would see something, right?
Right,
and eventually
we would see something here, but dinosaurs could be roaming all these other parts around the.
But what I'm saying is,
the globe.
We have not excavated every inch of this earth.
No. And in fact, most fossils we found are water fossils. And for and they've even shown that in order for a fossil to happen, it can't happen slowly. It's got to happen rapidly, too.
Right, exactly.
And so there is a level of that. So do I think a lot of these dinosaur fossils we're finding are real? Yeah, I actually do.
Sure.
I believe they're real bones. I believe they're real animals.
So here's why I caution, right? And I agree with you, right?
Okay.
Because maybe we don't have as many species as dinosaurs as what we think we do, right?
Right.
I remember that when they said that they found the missing Neanderthal, right? It proves evolution. And then it came out later on that no, it was like
pig jaw.
It was bones from an ape and then bones from a human that they mixed together to prove their story. And so
right. And so I agree with you. Some people try to fit the narrative.
There's a slight distrust I have with some, not all, but some of the scientific community when they go, I just proved this beyond a shadow of a doubt because of this. And it's like, but that's the only one you found.
Right.
So
like there are, it's wild because there's some dinosaurs that Elliot has in his dinosaur encyclopedia where it's like we only have one bone of this specific dinosaur.
Right,
Like,
but this is what it looked like. Yeah. How do you know that? Right.
It's the same idea where they found like some pieces off of like you said, the missing link, where it's like, oh, we found these couple different bones in it. So then all of a sudden it becomes all these big things. And I'm like, we're trying, and this is where but this is where I agree with you, where when we try to start with science and then pigeonhole our way through, we're just desperate trying to find all these different things. And so far, everything we found is lined up with the Bible in terms of an orderly creation that makes sense, everything in their own species. So I agree with you that the Bible, and we believe, and I fully believe that God created everything and it was good and it was in decency and it was in order. And as long as someone believes in that, rather than these different species evolving over time to become what we have today, I think you're okay. Now, I do think that there's a lot of people I mean, let's be honest, people just love conspiracy theories too. I don't think the dinosaurs are fake. I do think the dinosaurs are real. I mean, go to Chicago Museum of Science and Industry and see Susan, I think. There's like 97% of her bones that they found, 95, something like that. And
the T-Rex.
Of the T-Rex, and it's a beautiful, magnificent beast.
Right.
And so there had to have been something like that.
Right.
It's just a question of, did they walk with man or not? I think that is one of the big questions.
And the other question is the rendering, the 3D model rendering, what it actually looked like? Because all we have is the bones, and we saw like the hippopotamus one, right? And then you mentioned that I think last week when we were just chit-chatting about it.
Yeah.
You're like, it could have looked like a big giant chicken, and I'm like, it could have. I mean, we don't know really, and it could have, like you said, just as the age of people stop living so long, age of animals maybe stops living so long. After the fall of Adam and Eve, look at the years, right? Adam was 900. Methuselah
even
was
creation's
900.
growing out.
Right. So right. So things are dying out faster than what they were back at the fall. Mm-hmm. So maybe if certain animals, certain lizards, certain reptiles could live 900 years, maybe they'd be big dinosaurs. Maybe that's what it was. Who knows? But you said one thing that's real important, and I think we gotta come back to it, is that when we look at things in the Bible, we got to stick with what we know, and then everything else is just speculation, right? We can speculate all day long. And yes, there's some things that we're like, oh, we discovered this, but then there's other things that's like, okay, we discovered 1%, we're coming up with a whole dinosaur out of this 1% of the bone structure of this
and a lot of times
animal.
They do that because of where they found it in the sediment next to other ones, and so then they just make the assumption of, now they are logical assumptions. I'm not saying these dudes are a bunch of idiots.
Sure.
Like, it's a logical assumption they make. However, the problem is it's because they're starting at the point of billions and billions of years. That's their starting point.
Right.
Whereas if we have a starting point of, no, God created everything, we haven't answered everything. And that's the thing of, this is what I actually truly do enjoy about Answers to Genesis, and I don't think it's a dangerous mindset to have, is they flat out said, no, they have given logical answers for all these different things in the same way that evolutionists had all these logical answers that they think of.
Sure.
And again, it goes back to, what's your starting point? What's your foundation? How does all the things go? But at the end of the day, if people say, no, there's no such thing as dinosaurs, all these bones are fake, in my opinion, you're an idiot.
Right.
Like, we have them. But at the same time, we can't just make something out of nothing to try to fill the pigeonhole gaps in between all the different things. So if you were to ask me, Mark, do you think that humans walked with dinosaurs? I say, heck yeah, but they ain't living by them.
Right.
In the same way where, like people who live in Africa and the Sahara, they ain't living amongst the lions.
Right.
Like, they have to protect their fields from the lion. They have to protect their fields from these wild animals. And so it's like, yes, they have to live in and amongst and in between all these different animals. But at the same time, I mean, your boy ain't setting up his family shop right next to the T-Rex. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. So I do think that we have to understand, yes, the world is different. We don't fully know, but what do we know? We can see what we find from archaeological evidence.
Right.
But there's answers that the Bible proves that, yes, this actually all lines up with everything we've said so far.
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
All right. My final thought is actually not even my final thought. It's something from Christianity.com.
Oh, okay.
And my thing is, does this matter, right? Does
this actually matter?
Does this whole conversation actually matter? And this is what they have to say. It says, it matters in a sense that we can see God's fingerprints all over creation.
There you go.
Including the dinosaur fossils we pass in museums. It also matters in the sense that if animals mentioned in Job are, in fact, dinosaurs, this concludes humans and dinosaurs overlapped in a time period of existence. However, all in all, whether Job referred to I can't even say
Diplodocus.
Diplodocus
Diplodocus.
or a hippopotamus, I can say that one. This does not affect major doctrinal issues in the Bible.
Nope.
We should keep in mind, Scripture doesn't mention every animal that ever came into existence. This does not mean God didn't have a hand in creating all living things because simply they don't receive a specific remark in the Bible.
Like the tiger is not mentioned in the Bible.
Or the liger, the tiger lion crossbreed.
Or the zebra, or the zonkey.
The zonkey.
All these different animals.
Yeah, so just because it's not mentioned doesn't mean they didn't exist. We have some things that could have been them, but it doesn't specifically call them dinosaurs. So that's what we're left with, and that's what matters. What it matters is that we see God's fingerprints, right, everywhere. And that's the thing. That's what it should always lead us back to, is that we can see intelligent design and a creator in all of creation.
And that's it. It's like when you look at all of this, even if you look at stuff and go, all you have to say is go, holy crap, this is awesome. Or you just go, wow.
Right.
Like, what? Like, we have all these different things. And that's where I always go back to so hard, where it's the fact of, is there actual people say, oh, there's proof of evolution, there's archaeology evolution. There's been so many things that have disproven that as well. Right. It all goes back to the fact, though, that we have to admit that all things came from something. We have these alpha particles and some sort of array where everything seems to start at one point.
Right. And
that's what, it must be the Big Bang. In reality, it's like, no, it's when God spoke it into existence. So it went. And one day we'll know the answers. One day it'll all be true. And that's why, I kind of go back to this whole thought of, when you start with the fact that Jesus died and rose again, and we see that as proof and evidence, then we start studying the Old Testament, then we're reading it back into the New Testament, and then we read the New Testament back in the Old Testament. All it points back to the fact of God created, Jesus came and redeemed, and Jesus will come back and restore.
Right. Yep. I like it.
Cool. Fun fact time?
Let's do it.
Time for Fun Facts with Filler.
Who knew we were going to go that long on dinosaurs?
Oh, my
Even though, let's be
goodness.
honest, most of that conversation wasn't even about dinosaurs. It was about creation, how it all sets up, and all that kind of fun stuff.
It all plays into it, right? So
I agree.
Another part, and this plays into the fun fact of God's creation, is something that's really interesting.
Okay.
Did you know?
I stopped reading fun facts, so I'm learning with the people today.
Did you know that you can actually hear rhubarb grow? It pops.
Like the root?
Like the
Rhubarb.
the rhubarb plant that you eat and make rhubarb pie.
Yeah.
You can actually hear it grow. It actually pops.
Really?
This is because of how fast it grows. It can grow up to an inch per day.
That's pretty solid. So you actually hear it go pop.
So it can actually squeak and make other noises because it grows so fast every single day.
That must be why I have all these creaking and popping sounds. Is because I'm growing every day. I can get taller.
He's like, I'm on a stretcher.
I had a buddy of mine. He's exact same age as me. Went to college with him. He's from here in Michigan. And he goes, man, the older I get, the more I feel like I'm a freshly poured bowl of Rice Krispie treats.
It's
snack,
crackle,
and pop, baby, all over the place.
Oh, man. Yeah. So
That's an awkward transition.
All right. Well, anyways,
we're both tired.
We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, talking about dinosaurs today. And if you guys want to join more of the conversations, head over to Facebook, Real Talk Christian Podcast Community. That's our group page.
Yep.
A couple questions. Join up. Have conversations, not just with us, but with the 610 other
600
people.
More, hopefully more by the point that this episode comes out.
Probably.
And you can also find us over on our YouTube channel where you could actually see our wonderful faces. In fact, it's been really fun to see the comments where they go, I came to YouTube just to see if your faces matches your voice. And so many times, apparently, they think your voice is me and my voice is you, which I think is hilarious.
So they think you're monotone and I'm not.
I don't know, man. I just find it really, really, really funny. It's probably because you're the jolly old man. And they were like, he must be the eclectic voice.
No, that's only the one and only Marc Hyde.
But either way, so make sure you check us out over on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can't subscribe, but you can follow. And you can also leave a rating and review. If you have any question you would love us to answer on the show, first, head to the website, see if we've already covered it first, because we have almost 200 episodes in the bank, and you can search for an episode there. But if you do have a question you want us to answer here on the show, hit us up at realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com or find our phone number, socials, all that stuff over at realtalkchristianpodcast.com. Anything else before we let the people go?
No, sir.
All right, my friends. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. But until then,
take it easy.